Welcome to Around the Weird. Here's your host, the museum curator of the strange and unusual, Mr. Nothing.
Thank you, mysterious voice, and welcome back to Around the Weird, a booktube channel where I talk about all the unusual and out of the ordinary literature that I've found in my travels. Today, I wanted to talk about a comic book graphic novel, part of a series that I've been trying to explore about a certain superhero. So today's, comic book, today's review is all about something that focuses on superheroes, of course, and Nazis. I don't really have anything prepared there. I was referring to Captain America Red Menace by Ed Brubaker, and with art by Mike Perkins, among many others, which was published in, this Ultimate Collection was published in 2011, but this storyline was written in 2006. I've talked about Ed Brubaker before, particularly in the Winter Soldier video that I made, so go check out that video if you want more details about him. But he is a comic book writer who has written for Marvel, DC, and other companies as well. And he was instrumental in getting at least Captain America comics published in the 2000s and the aughts, as they're called. So he wrote the Winter Soldier storyline, Red Menace, part of Civil War, and the Death of Captain America storyline, which I've been exploring, even though it isn't really that great, to be honest, and I'll talk more about that in the analysis section. But I am interested in seeing the Civil War storyline play out, and even though it's wrong to do so, comparing it against what they did on the big screen to make it better, or what they really took out of it that might have hurt it. So that's always fun to do. And so without further ado, let's talk about Red Menace. I will do a summary, a little bit of analysis, and we will move on from there. Captain America Red Menace focuses, of course, on Captain America as well as Sharon Carter and a few other superheroes. It picks up where the Winter Soldier left off. Captain America and Sharon Carter are looking for Bucky as he's regained his memories. And Crossbones has kidnapped Cynthia Schmidt, who is the Red Skull's daughter, and who was sort of programmed by S.H.I.E.L.D. to forget those memories because it was harmful to her. And instead, he's deprogramming her, which is in fact a success. And she and Crossbones proceed to do a bunch of evil things in the Midwest, which is where Captain America is, because he's looking for Bucky, of course. But he's also trying to take down Crossbones and prevent him from doing whatever evil thing he wants to do. They travel to a secret advanced idea mechanics facility, now that it's sort of broken up and whatnot, and they have a fight with Crossbones and Cynthia, but they manage to escape, and Captain America finds out that they're looking for Lucan, who we know from the previous volume is now sharing a mind space with who we thought, or with Red Skull, who we thought was dead, but is actually just in his head. And in addition to this, Captain America recalls working with Bucky and a couple of other of the Howling Commandos to take down a giant robot that Red Skull had created. And Red Skull escaped at that point, but Captain America in particular notes that Bucky is a bit of he engages in risky behavior, which hurts him a lot. And so Captain America just wants to find him and prevent him from doing that now. Captain America then travels to London, where he teams up with Union Jack and Spitfire and fights the Master Race, a group of Nazis who have some connection to Captain America's past. This goes all the way to the London office of Kronos, where Lucan is at in his perfectly normal, respectable business. And it appears that Crossbones is going to fly a plane into it, which, given that this is like 5 years after 9/11, probably a little too early to be writing that kind of stuff into there. But, maybe it's not as terrible as I think it is. But instead, at this moment, Lucan resurrects the giant robot that Red Skull had during World War II, and it proceeds to terrorize London. Bucky, Cap, Sharon Carter, and the other heroes fight the Master Race and others. But Crossbones and Cynthia manage to escape. But Bucky and Cap manage to take down the robot. But before Cap and Bucky can talk, Bucky runs off, and he's later seen talking with Nick Fury, and requesting that Nick give him another hand because he lost it in the fight with the giant robot, indicating that Bucky is now on the side of good or something like that. And as the story comes to a close, Lucan finds himself to be in a room with Crossbones and Cynthia, and there's an indicator that there might be bigger plans down the road for them. In terms of analysis, there is a fair bit to talk about here, but it appears that this is not really that great of a storyline. It's certainly fun to read, but there's not a lot of depth to it, because based on what I've been reading before in other comics and whatnot, even with Swamp Thing, I kind of expect graphic novels, comic books to be a little bit more, to have a little bit of oomph. And when they lack that, it's noticeable, especially in comic books from like Captain America, where it seems to be forwarding some sort of unspoken agreement with the military-industrial complex. But one of the things that Brubaker is talking about here is that of Bucky's redemption. Bucky is trying to recover from the programming and the sort of forced assassinations that he had to undergo once he was captured by the Russians. So it seems like there's a lot of stuff that he has to work through. And that would be a very interesting kind of storyline to take place. They certainly try to touch upon that in the Marvel Cinematic Universe movies, particularly with Winter Soldier and Civil War, kind of noting how Bucky has been sort of manipulated this entire time. And if the comic had done that, this would have made for an interesting story where we learn a little bit more about what's going through Bucky's mind. Unfortunately, there's too little focus on Bucky to really be meaningful. He's a side character in this story, and even in the previous story, Winter Soldier, something that was focused on him, he wasn't really featured all that much. It seems like they're trying to bring back Bucky's character, but they don't really have a purpose for him, or they don't know how to go about doing that. And this could be ripe for, a very deep and meaningful story about Bucky trying to overcome all of this, and also coming to terms with, what Captain America is maybe asking of him. But it seems like Brubaker doesn't want to do any of that. And then if you compare this with a comic book that came out at the same time, Under the Red Hood, where Batman finds himself coming into conflict with the Red Hood, and then learning, spoiler alert, that it's actually Jason Todd from his past, and Jason is dealing with all this anger and grief over what happened with the Joker and with Batman, there's a lot of depth to that, a lot of interest in that, and it's a really good storyline arc overall, and it doesn't seem like Brubaker wants to capture that same atmosphere here. So what you end up with is sort of a half-assed sort of theme that he's building off of here, and it seems like I'm more reaching than is actually there. It also seems like Brubaker's trying to talk about the consequences of superheroes here, like superheroes running amok and through the city, causing destruction, and the people are starting to pay attention. Public perception is changing of Captain America. A lot of people are asking questions about whose authority he has to, run around and fight people and whatnot. He's a hero, yes, but he has to be answerable to someone. And there's a lot of collateral damage that takes place. We saw in the previous volume that there was a lot of bombings happening, and Crossbones straight up tries to fly a plane into a building in this volume. So a lot of destruction that Captain America can't always fix. So what's his real value here? It does seem like this is a prelude to Civil War, especially because there's mention of Congress coming up with legislation to address this, and that is indeed what happens in the Civil War sort of storyline, which I'm very much looking forward to reading, but I hope it certainly has more depth than what we find here. And even though there is sort of that focus, it still seems like Brubaker is making an argument that heroes are essential. If anything, like if you don't have them, worse things will happen. And so you need these super powerful people making the decisions on behalf of everyone else, even if that does cause a little bit of harm, which is a very hazardous and dangerous kind of message to be holding out there. So even though there is that public perception, there's still that lingering doubt in the background. And it also seems like this is carrying on the ghost of 9/11, given that this is fresh in everyone's mind. And there are bits of dialogue and whatnot in here that suggests that 9/11 is still fresh in the mind of Brubaker, and whatnot. Like there's just something lingering in the background that makes it necessary for these superheroes to be there. Otherwise, dangerous things might happen. And it's unfortunate that the 9/11 and the underlying Islamophobia kind of permeates these comics, but I guess that shows why they're so dated. And again, I hope this isn't carried forward, but given where we're at right now, I think we've seen a sneak peek of what Ed Brubaker has to offer for his run of Captain America. Despite all of that, I will say the final fight is pretty rad. If I were to say one good thing about Red Menace, it's that the final fight with like Union Jack and Spitfire fighting the Nazis, and like Sharon trying to fight Crossbones, and Captain America and Bucky fighting a giant robot. It's extremely cool. It's very well written, and the art is somewhat interesting there. So there are some good elements, but if you're looking for something in more depth, this isn't going to scratch that itch for you. Anyway, those are my thoughts on Captain America Red Menace by Ed Brubaker, and art by Mike Perkins. It's an okay entry into the Captain America series, but I have been expecting a little bit more, and I'm thinking that Brubaker isn't really going to provide more. Very lucky for me, I managed to find this at my local library, so I didn't actually go out and buy it. I think that's going to be the commonality among the rest of the series here, exploring Civil War and the death of Captain America. I don't want to go out and buy this if it's not going to be something that's worth rereading, in my opinion. And I think that says everything it needs to say about this particular volume, this particular storyline, is that it's not really anything of good substance there. So hopefully I'll be able to find Civil War down the road and talk about it. I'm looking forward to that a little bit. If you read this before, you simply want to comment on something I said here, do so below. Let's have a discussion about Red Menace. Otherwise, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so that other people can find out about Red Menace or Ed Brubaker if they don't already know. And also join the Discord if you want to have further conversations about comic books and even superhero movies and whatnot. And until then, I wish you the best of luck in your weird and Captain America travels. Farewell.